you have your Bibles, turn with me to Daniel chapter 4. Daniel chapter 4. A very simple, straightforward message this morning. So simple that the author of chapter 4 sums it up for you himself at the end of the chapter. Chapter 4 here is an unusual chapter in that it is actually written by Nebuchadnezzar. We get the words here of Nebuchadnezzar's testimony, straight from himself. And as we remember or review just a little bit from what we know about Nebuchadnezzar, he's seen God at work multiple times now throughout his reign. And as of last week, we ended the sermon looking at how Nebuchadnezzar had grown in what he thought about God, and he's gone all the way from a pagan worshiping king all the way up to being able to make it known to his people that you're not supposed to say anything bad against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All those things he's seen, and that's all he's been able to muster within himself. Just don't say anything bad about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Well, here in chapter 4, this is the end of Nebuchadnezzar's reign as king, and we see here in verse 4 he begins, Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. So you can see that Nebuchadnezzar here has moved on from don't say anything bad about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the point that he is proclaiming to the world who God truly is. There's been a change here in Nebuchadnezzar, and we'll see here as we read through the rest of this chapter what instituted that change. Verse 4, Nebuchadnezzar was at rest, or I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the visions of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians and the astrologers and the Chaldeans and the soothsayers. This is the same crowd that he brought in before when he had the dream about the statue. And then you would think, having been given the interpretation by Daniel of what that dream meant, you'd think he might skip all these guys and go straight to Daniel, but no, here we bring in that same crowd again. So, Nebuchadnezzar he's picked up a few things, but as we mentioned last week, he's a little bit slow on the uptake. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all these wise men. Verse 7, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers, and told the dream before them. But they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name is Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee, tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Now, if you notice as we read through that, Nebuchadnezzar makes reference to Daniel as being the chief of the magicians, and his name is Belteshazzar according to the name of Nebuchadnezzar's God, and you see that written in little g a couple of times there. It says there in verse 9, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubles thee. Anyway, Nebuchadnezzar, he's not gone through the event that he's about to go through yet. So he's writing, here's how I was thinking at the time. And so as we move on, we'll see Nebuchadnezzar's, he moves away from that. But anyway, so in these first few verses, Nebuchadnezzar is setting up the situation. He tells that he's had a dream, and here in verse 10, he begins to tell us about this dream or this vision that he's had. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw and behold a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached into heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much. And in it was meant for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in its boughs thereof, and all the flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and a holy one came down from heaven. I don't get caught up here too much on this term watcher. My personal opinion on this is in this particular passage, it's referring to an angelic messenger. You can read in a lot of places that there's some different thoughts on that, but don't get hung up on that. It's overcomplicating the purpose of chapter 4 if you get too hung up in that particular term. But anyway, I saw a vision of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and a holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from its branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of this root in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Let his earth be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over it. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand of the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whosoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. Now, Nebuchadnezzar reveals the vision that he's had. And it's in the tree, and everything's being prosperous under the tree. The animals, the birds, everything's prospering. And then we get to the tree getting cut down, and a root being